Oh my, it's Kelly White.
Hey, it's James Van Pod.
What are you up to?
Thinking about changing the world.
Me too. We should do a show together.
What would it be about?
Let me show you.
The James and Kellee Show. Hi,
Hi, Kelly. Wee!
Hi, James. Welcome back.
Welcome back. It's been a long time. We've missed each other.
We have. Oh my gosh. Can you tell everybody some of your highlights where you've been?
Well,
You
you and
had
I
a
really
great
haven't spoken a lot because we've been. I have family with me for the whole week. I had my my niece and her husband and my grandnieces and grandnephew here for the whole week and their summer vacation, and finally seeing each other after 18 months. And it was one of the greatest memories I'll have in my life. I mean, it's one of those great times you look back at life review. And I remember that week was great. It was very special seeing the world through children's eyes again.
Oh, how wonderful. Wonderful. You had a special experience.
I did.
I'd love you to share
among
that.
Many, yeah, among many, we went to go see the San Diego Padres play a ball game, which to me is like, I've been to ball games before, and everyone said that Petco Park is one of the best baseball parks in the country, and it is. So what we did, we made a day of it, and we took a train from where I live in Encinitas downtown to San Diego, which is an hour, a train ride. And before we got on the train, we're at the platform waiting for the train, and the kids are doing pantomime. And I just sat and didn't own. I went, and what am I doing? And we did yoga all week too, the kids. It was great. So they said, meditation, yoga. And finally went, oh. So that started the trip. And we went, and I said to the family, we should go to a place called Bappa di Beppo, which is an Italian family restaurant. It'd be great for my little nephew, Brendan. And he's turning 10 double digits, he said. So he's turning double digits. That'd be a great place. Anyway, we got the train ride, got downtown to San Diego, and my son-in-law there said, let's go to this hamburger joint. I have an app for it. We're going down the streets of the Gaslamp District, and some were a little strange. The energy was a little weird. And I said, no, let's go to the left. Let's go to the right. But before you knew it, probably 5 blocks toward the Petco Park, we were stopping the street and looked up, and there was a Bappa di Beppo, the actual restaurant I was talking about.
Wow.
So we went in, and we had a great time. It's great. And then so many highlights, but one is going to the Padre game. That Petco Park is definitely the best baseball park. I mean, there were dogs on hills with the parents around and trees and great views. And highlights really quickly were, the first inning, 4 runs against the Padres. So it was 0-4. And then that stayed. And I don't know, I think it was like 6 or something, 0 till the 4th inning. And what happened was San Diego Padres had 3 guys on the bases, first, second, and third, full. All the bases were full. And the Padres put up a pinch hitter who was this pitcher who had just come up to San Diego Padres, had never played before in a major league game, was from the farm league. This was his very first time on the game. He hits a grand slam. Wow. Crazy. And it was just an exciting. Everybody was wonderful and happy and joyful. I was like, wow, high-fiving. And then we went to the 9th inning, and it was the same type of thing. It was 8-8 to the 9th inning. And then at the very end of it, with 2 outs, the San Diego Padres last out they had was a man on second, and the guy comes up and he hits a double, so we won.
Wow. How exciting.
Nice memory. So
yeah, how wonderful. Wow.
It's just said to be with the kids and just have fun things and go swimming and do scavenger hunts and make believe stories and my little nephew says, Uncle James, nature is the wise one. Nature tells us everything we need to know. We should listen to nature more. If people would only open up their minds to the world around them, they would learn so much.
Oh, out of the mouth of babes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So how was your time off, Kelly?
Well, it was lovely. It was wonderful. But this week, I'm going to go visit my baby grandkids. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah. So I'll come back next week with more stories of that.
Okay. Good.
Oh, my gosh. Well, we have an exciting show today.
Yes, this is a show we've wanted to do for a long time.
Yeah.
I love the subject matter, as you do you, and there's so much to talk about that I don't know if we're going to cover everything, but we'll do the best we can.
Yeah.
And it's on auras. People know the aura, the electromagnetic field around every living thing. It's known by many names: the envelope, layers of the auric field, many different layers of the field of aura. The rainbow, we call it the rainbow light of everyone. Continue on, Kellee.
Oh, it's the human aura is also known as the magnetic force field that's completely around the body of man. And every living thing has an aura.
True.
And in fact, James, we should show a couple of pictures. James and I, the last time I got to see James was in literally, I think it was February 1st of 2020.
That was the last time we saw each other?
It's the last time we saw each other.
2020.
I think it was February 1st. It was like your last day.
Was it 2019?
No. It was 2020 because no. You flew out and you were doing a big thing in Chicago.
But COVID hadn't hit yet.
Had not hit yet. Remember we had dinner with David, our friend David, and
yes.
That
Kellee,
hadn't happened.
Kenny, you're off a year because we've had COVID now, 16 months or 18 months?
18 months. So I haven't, but last time I saw you was February 1st, 2020, because then I kept predicting this was going to happen. And then a month later it happened. Yeah. But while we were there, you had just been on stage with, I don't know, at least 300 people, and you were doing readings and readings and readings. And after the readings, I found out that there was a woman that was doing Kirlian photography, and that's the photography that is used to actually see an aura. And so I went and I had my aura read, and you had just said to me, Kellee, you're a teacher. And I said, and you said, no, you're a teacher. So I went to have my aura read by a woman that happened to be there. And she said to me,
gold is a teacher's color, right?
Gold is a teacher's color. I'm going to show that in a minute. But the woman that was there doing the photography for the auras, she said to me, do you know James Van Praagh? I said, yes, I do. And she said, well, it was because of him I'm here. He told me 10 years ago I'd be doing aura readings, and here I am. And I said, would you like me to go get him? And she said, oh, I would love that. So first I had my aura taken, and this was mine. And that was in 2020, and it's all gold, and gold is of the teacher. It's exactly what you had just said to me. Exactly.
High spiritual colors ever, a teacher, inspirational person. Yes. Exactly
and then James had his done, and to the woman's great delight that you were there for her. And look at James, and it's magenta and violet and white and gold. And that's somebody who is
there are spirits in the photo too, by the way.
Yes.
You can make that out, but there's several of them, like right here. Mm-hmm. It's like up here.
Yes. And you had just finished the readings.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a direct connection to spirit.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. I thought that was phenomenal. I love that story. And it's so interesting, the things that influence an aura too, because just like if you're thinking a positive thought, it will be influenced positively. If you're thinking a negative thought, aura will bring that in as a negative thought. Thoughts are things, as you've always taught us.
Yeah, I've just through all my so many books on auras and working with it, but to take all that information to put it down on paper, because I want to make sure, when I was talking about Virgos, I want to make sure everybody gets a little bit of everything. So I have my papers here, so I'm just going to read what I put together because it's really
it's so good.
Or it's our personal rainbow, depending upon the conditions, the spiritual conditions, the bioenergetic field expand and condense based upon what you're thinking at that moment. Universal energy field flows into each one, collective energies of animals, people, places, crystals. So all around us is universal energy. But we all have a personal auric field, which is really dependent upon our spiritual, emotional, physical, and mental selves. It's a reflection of that. And as you said, thoughts color that. The thoughts that we have creates a color. And I remember my near-death experience I had, which was really a very profound experience. And I remember very well that as I was having this, I wasn't in time. I was outside of time. I knew it wasn't my time to leave. But I was very aware of everyone having this cord of energy going to this, I would guess you'd say matrix or a tapestry. And I knew that whatever I thought would have a color to it, and that would influence that tapestry and affect every other being. And I knew that it was my responsibility to keep the color in a light, bright, happy, loving way. And when I knew when it was my time to go over life review, part of life review is to see what you left behind. What influence did you have on the world here and in the universal world? Wow. And I knew that. So be careful of our thoughts. What colors are we leaving the world?
Right.
Very, very true.
Oh, that's so true. Wow. What an experience.
Yeah. And there are 7 layers of the auric field. The closest is the red and goes according to the chakra colors. And 7 different layers. We'll go into that in a second.
We'll go into that.
Well, and, Kellee, so much information.
Well, and one of the stories I do want to tell everybody is something that happened, and I had shared this with James. A client came in to see me, and the person came in, and she was just a regular reading, what would have been a normal reading. And she comes in, and she sits down, and all I could see was black everywhere. And I don't just mean, it didn't matter what I did. Everything was black, inside, outside, all around. And I finally, I couldn't even begin the reading. And I said, I looked right at her and I said, are you contemplating self-harm actually? And she said, yes, I am. I tried last night. And I could see it. I could see it. You can't miss anything in an aura. You know, I mean, there are times, and when I'm with somebody, and this probably happens with you, James, where a color or 2 or 5 just pop out. Has that happened? I mean, it's just like, boom, just pops out. And I think it's Spirit's way of getting our attention.
Yeah, some auras sparkle. I've had that experience.
I've had that too, right?
I've had feels auras will come across the street when I'm walking through the street. Someone's aura coming right there. Yes. Usually when it's an expanded aura like that, it's very, very spiritual person, very open, very compassionate being. So of course it takes me up right away. People have a mistake, and going back to Kirlian photography, which is a representation of that particular moment when that picture is taken. People come to me all the time and say, look at my aura. And I said, well, it was at that particular moment, but several moments later it changed depending on your thoughts. So it's constantly changing depending upon your thoughts, your well-being in your body, mind, spirit, and emotional body. That's what creates that color, the colors, if you will. Yes. So it's always constantly changing. So this was my aura photo at that particular moment, but it is constantly changing. And some people are more aware of the colors as far as the densities of the colors, whether it's a red, a blue, a purple, they'll feel that feeling, oh, I feel so blue. What does that mean? So we're going to go over the colors of the aura too.
Yes, that's so true too. And the layers, as you mentioned, we're going to talk about the layers of the aura, because this is all fascinating. Oh, I want to tell you something also that I found fascinating, that Edgar Cayce, the great prophet and one of your guides, Edgar Cayce,
Edgar Cayce.
He had this,
in many ways, actually.
Right? Oh, I got chills when I said that. He had this amazing story to tell. He was getting into an elevator back in the day. I mean, I'm not sure what day this would have been, in the 20s, 30s.
Late 30s.
And he was getting in the elevator, and as he went to get in, he noticed, he looked in the elevator, and he said, I don't see any light coming from there were 20 people in it, didn't see any light. And he said, no, I've got to go. So I'll take the next one. And the elevator crashed, actually. So what he said about this is, he said, when you get on an airplane, he said, always check to see auras. And that's exactly what I do, James. A second I sit down, I go, okay, this is a good flight. Nah, I'm fine. I do. So, I listened to Edgar Cayce.
So I never told you this story. I don't think I did, Kellee. I once went on a plane ride. I was working at Omega Institute in upstate New York, and it was an August summer, about 5-6 years ago, maybe. And I was going to meet Lynn Probert, my medium friend from England. Yeah. We're going to meet in New York. She's flying from London to New York, and I'll meet her there. We're going to fly to California. So we're on a Delta flight, and it was about 5 o'clock. I'm getting out of JFK in the summer. It's hot as hell. Yeah. And the moment we walked on the plane, I put my foot in it, and it was like this energy, like, and I said, oh my God, it's a sick plane. We're not going to be leaving tonight. We're not going to be leaving. She goes, oh, stop it. You're just so dramatic. I said, trust me. Well, it ended up, we went on the tarmac, had to come back. Then the engine didn't work. Then something else didn't work. Got off the tarmac. To make a long story short, we got back 3 hours later, back to the gate. And he said, the captain said, you can leave if you want, but we're going to move on. So we went and got our baggage, but the baggage had to stay on the plane, I guess. It was a whole big thing. And it ended up then that we ended up at a steakhouse that night in the baggage claim, having I think a bottle of wine, and I got a bottle of wine, and it was just such a crazy, and I said it felt like a sick wine. And then we were ready to leave. The waitress, when I was in the restaurant, she said, you can't leave. I said, why can't we? She goes, there's a bomb threat going on right now. And we looked at all.
You really hit it.
We hit it. And then we found out that it was the Summer Olympics and there was a starter pistol that went off and somebody thought it was a bomb. So they freaked out JFK and we ended up sleeping in a hotel that night and going home the next day without fixed. I knew it was a sick plane. I knew you can feel that.
You can feel it. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Great story.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So why don't we go through, maybe we can talk about, people talk about the colors of the auric field. And I think that there could be one predominant color, but many times it's a mixture and a blending depending upon what's going on with your life as far as, again, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, because they all affect each other. So do you want to start, Kellee? With
yes. So if we start with, if you ever see red on somebody, red, there are always positive qualities and there's always some negative qualities of all of it. And red means often survival. That person might be in a survival state, or it might be physical energy, that they have a tremendous amount of energy, or courage. You know, it's the color of courage too, if you see red on that, or passion, or actually the crusader. Could be any of that. And on a negative end of it, it may mean that, you know, somebody's a bully. Depends on what color that is. If I see like a muddy red against somebody, I go, oh boy, here we go. You know, I mean, I'm going to back the other way. And it all depends. It could be an irritable nature. Somebody's in a bad, really bad, angry space.
Could be resentment. Could be
yes.
It also could be inappropriate
jealousy.
Jealousy, possession. Yep. I have here dull or harsh reveals a suppressed fury, irritable nature. So and the positive I have bright red, scarlet, lots of source, life, vibrant life. It's a life, it's a force. It's a beautiful life force. And they're able to overcome any obstacles, the desire to initiate positive changes, and a passionate lover.
Exactly. There you go. Perfect. What about orange? When we see orange in an aura,
confidence and dependence, strong sense of identity, fertility, because it's the second chakra, self-esteem, of course, health, happiness, personal desire. It forms a second layer of the aura, moving out from the body, right? It's also the first emotional level of the chakra point. So the three main chakra points of the emotional body, so it's the very first one. So that's really interesting. A positive quality, the warm, rich orange indicates ability to integrate different aspects of life, sociability, self-motivation, originality, creative building. Negative might have a lack or loss of self-identity, low self-esteem. I found lots of abuse as well, a lot of abuse.
Could be issues related to food too. You know, it could be issues related to food. The other thing is, if it's a healthy orange, you may be contemplating having children. If it's a healthy orange,
The second, sure.
Second chakra.
Second chakra. That's exactly right. Very, very good.
Interesting. So let's talk about I love to see this yellow. When I see yellow in an aura, I just love it. It's always about it's sharp memory is one of them. It's mental, sharp memory. It brings joy. It can bring clear communications. It's often an actor or an actress. It's or somebody that has a potential for that. Interesting enough, it's a scientific and a mathematical mind, which is interesting.
And the color of mental dexterity, color of the communicator.
The communicator. Yes, I love that.
Dexterity, very mental sign.
Yes.
Yes, go on.
I was going to say, if it's a non-negative quality, it may be irregular, harsh streaks of yellow indicate hyperactivity. So sometimes you see something that's a little muddy yellow, something that's not quite that bright.
The same information I do. You can't. And it says, "My mustard yellow may mask jealousy or resentment."
Oh, wait, James. Wait a minute. A tendency towards gambling. I didn't realize that when I look at that yellow. I'll have to pay more attention to that one. Interesting.
It also indicates if it's depending on the color of that yellow in the auric field, there could be a sense of ego or power, misused power, misused ego, and using the mental aspects of ourselves to get over on somebody through the ego. So it could be a narcissist.
Oh, so totally.
Narcissistic clients, you must see that kind of yellow, that streak.
Right. I'll tell you what I see in that. I see red, orange, and yellow.
Yeah.
And here's another one. I'll see a dirty color of green often. And that may indicate a problem with money. Now, if it's a bright, we'll talk about green in a minute, but it could be any of the lower chakras, James, with those colors. Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay, now to the heart.
Green. I love to see green. I have to tell you a story. I had a client that came in, and again, when this happens, there's nothing I can do. It pops out, and this woman came in, and no matter what I did, all I could see was green. In fact, it was to the point where I couldn't see her anymore, and all I could see was this giant bright green. And I said, her name was Erica. I said, Erica, what is going on? I can't even see you right now. You're so green everywhere. I thought it was my eyes. I actually thought I was having a problem. And she said, oh, I just got a new job and it paid me what I wanted to make. And I'm so happy about it. So it was that was an amazing moment because Spirit so wanted me to see it. It was coming out of her pores.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah. And it's the third, of course, that third chakra point. The third chakra point for the emotional body. So that's very important. So that's very important. That love, fidelity, trust, harmony, healing. Whenever I see green, it's a healing person, a healer for sure. It's also a child of nature, color of nature, and that's growth. It's the fourth layer of the aura, moving outward, and last daily, outer limit reflects a love of humanity. Positive reveals trustworthy, loving heart, generous with time, love, and money, and whose words come from the heart. A green aura is a sign of a person deeply committed to love. Emerald green shows a natural healer. There you go, especially in the alternate field. Negative qualities. Pale green suggests emotional dependency.
Ooh.
A dull, murky green reveals conflicting emotions or a potential emotional vampire who sucks energy from others. I've also seen cloudy or I guess Mavis Patella talked about it, stains in that green auric field. And she said it very nicely. She said, I see that there's stains in that field there. So I know around the age of 22, 23, and I'll explain this in a little bit about going through the auric field and doing the map of the auric field. But she said there was an emotional problem you had at age 22 that you still are holding on to. And the man in the audience said, that's exactly right. So
wow.
You can sense it by seeing that. She said it's stained. And I love that word.
I love that.
Stained. Yeah. Interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. So
then we go to the blue.
The blue. I often see blue around people.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Visionary, perspective, physical authority, healing powers. Healing power is transmitted through the higher sources. Color of seeker of truth.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. It's the first of the higher. Do you have this, Kelly?
I do.
First of the higher and outer auric levels. I don't know what your sources are, or because I got mine for a bunch of places. And the fifth one moving outward from body. Royal blue, which is my favorite color, by the way.
I love it.
It creates an integrated personality with a keen sense of justice and natural powers of leadership. There you go. Bright blue is very creative and also altruistic, very true. Pale blue is a color of idealistic and global vision. Clear blue represents objectivity, and the possessor is often a gifted speaker and teacher. Blue auras fusing other colors can be seen around spiritual healers, teachers, authors, actors, and other performers.
Yes. I love that. And negative qualities.
What are the negative qualities?
Well, their dull, dunce blue may represent increased conservatism. I don't know why that cracks me up. And a concern for a rigid rule keeping. Oh my gosh. I know we all do. Harsh blue is a sign of someone who is autocratic, opinionated, and intolerant of others' lifestyles and beliefs. Wow. Ooh, harsh blue. I would have never
thought that.
Wow. Okay. So as we get into the higher ones, purple.
Yes. Go right ahead, Kelly.
Well, actually, it's for inner vision and psychic awareness and spirituality and knowledge of the future and past lives and worlds. It's the color of the seer and the wise one and the
evolving soul.
Evolving soul. and the clear indicates acute sensitivity to people's unspoken intentions and awareness of the spiritual world, which I love. Enhanced intuition, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and a charitable care for all in need, which is wonderful. I love when I see somebody in purple.
Yeah, I love that.
Love it.
Yeah, it's a mixture between pink and blue, purple, right?
Yes, it's great.
Negative
Oh,
qualities, what is it? Applies it to say, owner spending too long on daydreams and illusions,
yeah.
self-pity, a tendency to stress, especially absorbing other people's negative moods. Dark indigo indicates isolation and disillusionment with the world. And all suffering indigo and reveal a person with Asperger's syndrome or other conditions associated with oversensitivity to the world, especially among the young. And
Isn't that
yeah,
interesting?
now there's some reports that some people come back, some souls that come back who are ADHD or those in Asperger's syndrome tend to either have a very wide open auric field.
Yeah.
Their field wide open, so they pick up everything. And sometimes they talk about Asperger's, certain beings of the syndrome of Asperger's, depending where they're at on the spectrum, tend to close down from a very early age because they get too much input.
It's too much stimulation. Yeah.
Stimulation.
Yeah. So true. It's so interesting. And so now we have violet, which is really very high up there, which is really what you had violet and magenta in yours, which I loved. But violet is a connection with other dimensions. And
it's
with
the medium's color.
It's the medium's color. It's we connect with ancestors, angels, spirit guides. My favorite, the color of the mission of the mystic and the visionary, and it integrates all aspects of the self and the spiritual world. Which
I had to add on there: psychic ability, intuitive, magical, manifester, deep spiritual understanding, repels stress, creative imagination, desire to help others. And if you have fuchsia with it, unconditional love and compassion. And here comes the gold with it, which you had in yours, and I had a little bit of mine. Intuitive, gut feelings, knowingness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which it was very true. And white. Now, let me ask you a question, James. When we would see the pictures of auras, or I want to say they're auras, around the crowns of people, around the heads of people, like in these old religious paintings?
The halos.
Halos. So is that the same as an aura?
My interpretation is yes. In those days, I believe it was the auric field. They were starting to see the aura. And that's what I think that is exactly right.
Yeah.
Just like I believe angels, I may be totally wrong with this, but my belief is that when they see beings of spirits with around them with these wings, I think they were seeing the auric field. And they interpret it as wings, but really they were seeing the auras or the auric fields around these beings. It's very
interesting. And when you start to learn to see auras, the first thing that pops out really is a little bit of white.
So sometimes that's the electromagnetic field there right away. So that's something everybody will see a white little part of it, but that's just the beginning of the electromagnetic field. And the more you can tune into that, but then when you're looking, try to put your vision in a way where you're not really focusing. You become unfocused and almost look to the side, if you will. And then you begin to sense, if you will, let your senses bring you in and just sense what colors are there. What sensing is a great thing. And you might notice also that there's more energy on the right side or the left side, in front of the person, behind the person, above them, below them. Where is the energy being drawn to? Where is most of it? Now, this is very interesting, Kelly. I had one of the very first very gifted psychics I went to see. I thought first on cable television years and years ago, and I must have been 20-something years old before I got into this. And she sat down with a piece of paper, and it was Kay Ray.
Oh,
and she was yes, Kay Ray.
I remember her.
Kay Ray.
Yes.
The body to help the detectives find bodies, and she was sitting there, and I still have somewhere in my files. I must still have her thing here. Let's see if I can find it really quickly. I might not.
Kay Ray.
But what it was she was well, this person is a mental person, and she would they're a mental reactor. So she goes, there are mental reactors, there are emotional reactors, and there are physical reactors, and there are spiritual reactors. And that's what she would do the layers. She said there's a dominating color mostly. And she'd say, for instance, a mental person, she'd see mostly yellow around them. They react mentally to things. If she'd see a lot of green, she'd say, oh, that's a very emotional person. They would react emotionally to something. And it really kind of made sense because everybody is mostly, could be one color they react mentally or spiritually, emotionally. Yes, it's a blending, but she believes that there's an overall predominant one that's at force. And then the other can come in there. But I like that. I'm a mental reactor. I am. I can understand that. Yeah, so I like that. Kay Ray, The Psychic Is You was her book. She's a great lady. Passed over a long time ago now. But so mental reactor.
Good. Yeah. Well, should we talk about the etheric body and to go through the bodies?
Yes, go right ahead. You begin,
Okay,
Kelly. I'll just jump on in.
the layer that's when you see an aura, that's the one that's closest to the body, to the physical body, is the etheric. It's called the etheric body or the etheric layer, and it's the first layer of the aura, and it goes out about 1.5 to 2 inches from the body, and this connects primarily with the first chakra and our organs and the glands and the meridians, and it relates to the physical health of the body.
Exactly right. So when you think of the fields of the auric fields, it's an easy way to do it. It's just go with the chakra points. So the chakra, 7 chakras, there are 7 fields. So that first field is that root chakra, the red field that goes all around the physical body. And it's the stamina, the life force of that individual. And that you will see that sense it's strong or it's not. I used to work in hospitals, and I used to sense that auric fields. And I remember many times the physical was not fully there, and that person would pass away within the next week. Yeah, it was really interesting. I worked at a hospital for 5 years before I did mediumship.
What'd you do in the hospital?
I was a temp and in the human resources department. They kept me there because I was only a week job. I stayed there for 5 years because I was able to read people without knowing I was doing it psychically. But I tell the head of HR, you really should hire this person. She'd really be a good nurse. This would be a good assistant. And it was one. And then next thing you know, I'm all in different departments of the hospital because they all want to be around me. And I didn't know.
Good practice.
Yeah, it was good practice. And that's when I would go see up the 6th floor was an AIDS ward. The AIDS ward just started when AIDS was around.
Wow.
And I remember I went up to deliver something to the nurses station. And it was the first time I would see spirit, as far as a team of beings, of guides, I guess you'd say. And they would go from one room, like see regular doctors coming, it would be these beings in white lights, coats, from one room. Then they go down the hall to another room. And I noticed that the person in that room would pass away probably within the next hour. Oh, it was so wild. And I was like, that's so bizarre. And it's before I knew anything about mediumship.
Wow. So spirit had you in the right place to be.
Yeah.
During that time.
And just one more thing with auras, check it out with flowers too, with plants. They all have auras, and you'll see the way I communicate with my garden and my plants, my flowers. I sense what they need, and if they're lacking in water, they'll give me this sense, this feeling, this color is not the right color. The color is not balanced. The color is not full. It's less. So, work with that. Work with your instincts.
And trees, everything has an aura.
Everything.
Do you ever look at your trees and look at the color every day and determine how their aura is doing? Yeah.
Oh, when I water them, I say, how much more do you want? That's enough. Thank you. I've got to a point now, I know with them what's going on. It's weird, but I love it because we're all connected to everything. And the more we allow, like my grandnephew said, Uncle James, nature knows everything. The most, it's wisdom. And we should look at nature for wisdom. It's very, very true.
Wow.
So that first auric field, that's the first is the red one. Yeah.
It's the red one. And the second one is the emotional layer or the emotional body. And that extends about 2 to 4 inches away from the physical body. And everything is in the shape of an oval. So if we view this that way, and it has to do with the second chakra, as we talked about, feelings and emotions and experience. And it's constantly, because our emotions are constantly in a state of change. So it's a constant, it's reflective of our current mood. The second, the emotional layer.
So if you're in a very emotional way, then that second layer will be larger, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yes, that's very true. Yes.
And it's a layer especially sensitive to stress, everybody. So remember that emotional auric layer, it's very sensitive to stress. Very, very true.
Interesting enough, it's also very sensitive to muscle cramps and upset stomachs.
Wow.
Interesting. Residing in the second aura layer.
Yeah.
Okay. And the mental layer, that's always...
Yeah, 1 second, Kelly. Okay. Let me go back to the second one, because this has happened to me in readings. When I've done readings with people and I've sat down, and sometimes I'll just sit and go through you've seen me do it. I sit with a blank piece of paper and do a stick figure, and I start at the head and go down, which teach people about. But I've seen auric fields, and I've seen, there's a stomach problem here, or the issue, because I'm reading that second chakra, the second auric field, and I see this problem with the bowels, or the prostate, or the reproductive area, and it'll be in that second layer that I'm aware of it. And of course, that second layer rules those areas.
Isn't that interesting? There you go. Wow. And so now we're on to the mental layer or the mental body, and that's about 4 to 8 inches from the physical body, and that's connected to our third chakra. And it's consciousness, it's ideas, it's logical processes, it's belief systems, and intellect. And this is where everything is either rationalized or validated, and you can see mental health issues in the mental layer here. So
Definitely.
that could look like an odd color coming out, like a muddled color coming out.
And also rules power, self-esteem, ego.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
sometimes you like we talked about before, narcissists. Sometimes you'll see that or sense
yeah.
that yellow, the third layer there, and it would be sometimes in jagged shards coming out. But it's not always soft. There'll be jags, there'll be shapes, there'll be. It
You were
happens.
absolutely right. I had forgotten about that.
Yeah,
Jagged shapes.
happens a lot.
Absolutely, that happens. Yeah,
Exactly.
oof.
And
It
and
almost
sometimes
feels like you're getting attacked when you see that.
just going to say, so when someone's mentally
Mhm,
attacking you, having bad
mhm.
thoughts about you mentally, from when maybe they're working with you or a friend, whatever,
Yeah.
you sometimes the sensitive can sense when they look at that third or sense that third layer that there's someone else's layer imposing upon that person's mental layer. So you'll pick up someone else's mental energy on that person's mental energy, and then yes, the person's sitting there. So you've been worrying about someone. Well, I can't get this person out of my mind. They're here all the
Yeah.
time. I sense them all the time. That's because their mental energy is sitting upon your mental auric field.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah,
That's something.
very true.
Oh my gosh. The fourth layer, which is the astral bridge layer or the astral body, and that is, let's say, it's 8 to 12 inches away from the physical body, and that's connected to the fourth chakra, the heart, and it's our well-being, it's our love, it's expansive, it's life balance, it's the window to our spiritual nature. This astral bridge, and it does separate, as you said, James, the first three layers from the outer three layers.
And it opens us up to receive love and give love.
Oh yeah,
Very,
yeah.
very important. And it's very
Yeah,
important that that stays in balance because if it doesn't, of course, we could have trouble with that. It's also that not only the green, but sometimes people will see sometimes see a pink, and pink is unconditional love. So some people will see
yeah,
pink in that fourth emotional layer. That has happened quite a bit as well. Um,
yeah. Wow.
I
Okay.
can read this, which is really interesting. Controls the ability to give and receive love and understand and empathize with others without
Mhm.
drowning in guilt or assuming too much responsibility.
Wow.
No dysfunctional relationships, please. So
Oh,
balance.
please.
So as we're going on here to the emotional level, I just want to go into again another Kay Ray reference. She must be here. But she would also say if that person is a mental reactor, or emotional reactor, or physical reactor, and she would say something about, and I believe this to be true, as we just talked about with the Asperger's, ADHD, that there, of course, everything's energy, and
Mhm.
that we are receivers we give out and receive. And sometimes there might be someone's emotional layer, body, that is turned on too much, opened up too much. The volume is too much on, and they pick up things left, right, or maybe the mental
Yeah.
part that they're overthinking so much.
Mhm.
Right? So that's very true. You got to turn it down. You got to turn it down.
Yeah.
And it's like dialing it down.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
That's
all
just
about balance, isn't it?
it's all about
All of
balance. So
it.
we have to balance
Y-
all that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And the next
There's
one
so
is
much
the
knowledge here, Kelly.
I I know, seriously. The etheric template layer. And so this is about 1 to 2 feet away from the physical body, and it connects the fifth chakra. So the fifth chakra is sound, vibration, communication, creativity, and it serves also as the carbon copy of the physical body on the spiritual plane. How interesting is that?
Interesting. Interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Wow.
Interesting. Hmm.
Thyroid gland, neck, the shoulders,
Mhm.
patches around the ears, the mouth and jaw. That's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So sound is very much ruled in that area as well. People who
Yeah.
pass away, my grandmother's happened to, when her first signs, and it happens to a lot of people who, right before their passing, they will hear spirit or they'll hear music. My grandmother, again, Kay Ray is coming in. Thanks, Kay, because she was the one that she said there was. I asked her about you. What do you want to know about? And I said my grandmother passed over. It's been many, many years, 30 years ago. She said, "Well, I go to her and I hear music before I pass over. There's music playing, and it's around World War I, And there's a man that comes together in a World War I uniform, and the music is from World War I. Well, years later, I asked my father about that, and he said that's very strange because and that man came to get her. She was in love with a soldier from World War I, and he died, and they were never able to have that relationship.
Wow, go her.
And he played music, he played the piano.
Wow.
She heard it first, see?
That's amazing.
Actually, the spirit. Yeah.
Yes. Good story.
Good story.
There's hope for you out there. You should write a book for sure. Oh my gosh. Okay. And the sixth one is celestial layer, or the celestial body. And that is about 2 to 3 feet away from the body. And it reflects our subconscious. And as we had Kelly Russell on our show, how important the subconscious is. It's pretty much rules everything.
Imagination, inspiration, nightmares, fears, phobias, spiritual well-being, and the effect it has upon your physical body. Because you should be very aware of that. Celestial body, the brow chakra control the eyes, the senses, the ears, the headaches, including migraines, pituitary glands, cerebellum, forebrain, and their influence radiates into the central cavity of the brain. Wow. I know a lot of clairvoyants who overuse the pineal gland and they get headaches. And this makes total
I've
sense.
heard that one. Yeah.
Clairvoyantly. Yeah.
Oh, that's so true. Got balance. And the final layer, and there's probably a lot more, but for our purposes, the causal layer, the catheric template layer, or the causal layer, and that is about 2 to 3 feet out, depending on how it is. And that is all possibilities. It's all knowledge. It's all possibilities. It's connected to the 7th chakra, and it holds all of our layers of auras together, and it contains 100%. The blueprint actually of our spiritual path. So it will reflect all of our soul's experiences and events through time.
Exactly right. I couldn't say it better.
So it's fun. And one of the things that I want to mention before we go into our next phase here is that I found this so interesting, that our right side indicates our masculine side. And it actually, our aura on the right is how we project ourselves to others. And the left side aura is our female side, and that creates our future for us. So when I'm looking at somebody, if I'm looking at the right side, it's showing me, what that person is projecting out. But if I see the left side, it's what I see their future to be. And the center above is where the person is at the exact moment, in that moment. And often if you get your picture taken at that exact time, that is at that moment, exactly just like that, at that moment. So that may not be, the next day, may not even be in an hour from then, but interesting.
And the couple that took that photograph, Dr. Jack and Susan Lewis is her name.
Oh, she was wonderful.
She was wonderful. According to them, it's called A1 Aura Photo. Oh. And just what you're saying about the left and right side, the person's right side expressing self outward, how others perceive you, recent past, energy going out. The left side, what you're actually feeling, what you are creating for yourself in your future, energy in with the left, out with right.
Yeah, I love that. So now.
Yes. Well, I wanted to share with everybody this wonderful medium, a wonderful teacher I've worked with before from England named Mavis Patilla, and a very well-known medium in the fields of this wonderful art. And I did a workshop with her at Omega Institute. And as I was mentioning earlier about the stain, and I can't talk about Mavis without doing her voice because she sounds like that, you see.
Totally.
She's from England, and I once said, "Mavis, hello, darling, how are you?" And she got scared because she sounded just like her. Anyway, she did this. Talk about clairvoyance, and it's really a bit of clairvoyance, but it's also clairsentience because you're sensing, you're feeling, and those are the two most that we're using. And she was talking about looking at the auric field in those ways, but really, really interesting. And I've stole this from her, right? And she stole it from someone else, and we just share it. But the roadmap of the soul, and you can read or sense the auric by the auric fields by using those chakra points. So from the red all the way to the top. And you can just get an overall, as you begin sensing, you can get just not seeing, but sensing what you feel. So as you mentioned, Kellee, you'll feel more energy at the top of the head, the right part, the left. First, assess that. And then your own way, the roadmap to that person's soul. So, and it could be the lessons that they're learning, what they're going through, what the path they've been on, what they're looking forward to. And everybody can do it differently, but she would use the first chakra as the ground point, as age 1 to 5. Okay. Now, before that would be below the root chakra, and that would be, what are the conditions this soul has gone through before it came into this lifetime, this physical vibration? What were the conditions of the mother and father in that household? Were they expecting this child? Were they not? Financially, were they stable? Were they not? Where were they living? What were the conditions that this soul first found itself before they came into incarnation, into the body? It's really interesting. Next thing you could do is you can sense then the first, let's say in this case, the first chakra, we're going to say the soul's experience from 1 to 7 years. And you just sense by going to that first layer of the auric field. What was it? Was it about survival? Was there money? What were you feeling as that soul experiences the first 5 or 7 years of its life? What sticks out the most in that first field of survival, of security, of family, if you will? And you begin to sense certain conditions, things that happen to that soul, that the soul experienced, that's still in the auric field between 1 to 7. Yeah. And then you can tell the person that, you can write it down. And then you can go to the second chakra point. So let's say that's from age 8 to about 11 or 12. And you'll then sense, and in the roadmap, you're going into that field, that second field, sensing what major events took place in that soul, for that soul's development between the age of 7 to 12. Well, did it find its independence? Did it find its own voice? Did it start developing, evolving as a soul, starting to come out and speak, learning its own truth? And then, of course, you go to the next chakra point, would be the teenage years, 13 to 17 or 18. And a lot of changes, hormones change, a sense of independence, a sense of going out socially. And you'll begin to pick these things up and sense them. And you'll be amazed when you do it, what comes through. And then you get, of course, you go 20 to 25 or to 30, however you want to do it. And you will pick up things left and right. Like, oh, there's an emotional upset at the age of like 22, or there was a separation of a life, or there was a loss of a parent at the age of 27. Yes, that's true. Or you moved away to a new place and formed your own home. Yes, that's happened at 26. That's right. You get a roadmap, if you will, with the auric layers. And the more you do it, it's fabulous. So that's
fascinating.
I teach that in my workshops and some of the workshops I do. And I work with it. And now, an interesting way of doing that, too, is you will have 2 students. One will be sitting down, facing away from the person standing behind them. What happens now is the person sitting down has to sense the person behind them, their roadmap, without looking at them. Just completely sensing on what they feel from them standing behind them.
Wow.
It works really well. It's all there. It's just the roadmap.
My gosh. Terri Timmerman says, how do I develop the ability to see auras? Can a person control what their aura shows? Like, can you help yourself develop, say, psychic skills, envisioning yourself bathed in indigo?
Well,
so
sure
yes, yes, absolutely. You can develop the ability to see auras. And there are some simple techniques. I mean, for me, I just relax my eyes and start to look out peripherally. And I like somebody to be in a white background. For me, it's easier for me to see if they're in a bright. I mean, it's just easier. And then I let my eye. It's like a lazy eye, and I just let it float. Frankly,
correct.
And next thing I know, a color pops out, and then from there, as James is saying, you can really start to hone that skill. It's a skill set. It takes some time. But you may start with just seeing the outline of your body. In fact, have you ever done this one, James, where you take your hands, you put your hands like this, and you kind of loosen your eyes a little bit? And it's hard to see it this way, but you'll start to see your own lights start to come out of your hands. So that's one way to practice. And a mirror is a good way to practice.
A mirror is a very good way to practice. And you got to ask this, show me this. Let me sense it. What am I sensing right now? You have to ask. A thing which I do, Kellee, which is, again, a good sensing one to begin with for everybody. If you like to rub your hands and just become aware what energy feels like and sensing, and just put your hands like this, about maybe 6 and 8 inches apart, and just close your eyes and begin to sense what it feels like, the energy going back and forth, and bring your palms a little closer together, and you'll begin to feel this magnetic pull and it's almost like it feels like a charge that goes back and forth, negative and positive charges, and just feel that. Get into that. And what does it feel like? What do you sense about that? Now you get that, and you can play like an energy ball with that. And that's the energy ball. Now what you want to do is this. So you can then take it to use your hands to the first chakra and sense what the red first chakra feels like. What does it sense like? See how far out you sense that aura, that auric field of the first root chakra. How far out does that go? And what does it feel like? What are the, if you will, what characteristics can you put to that first root chakra feeling? Then you go to the second one, which is, of course, the orange. Does that feel very different? Very subtle, but it moves differently, as different virtues, if you will. It's very, very different. Then you go to the third, and you sense, wow, that yellow one, just to go out further, to stay closer. What do you sense? What do you feel as you're sensing that auric feeling? Then you go to the fourth, and that vibratory rate of the green vibratory rate, that body is very different than the rest of them. So you do that for each chakra point, if you will, and the energy feels, and you'll notice that each one is very different, subtle. It's all about subtlety. It's not going to hit you over the head.
No, it's not, except on occasion. It does. It's the damnedest thing on occasion. When spirit wants you to see a color, kaboom.
Well, when they want you to know something, kaboom. So when you're thinking about it, you block it. So how many people here have been in the shower and all of a sudden a spirit message comes through? Or you're driving your car and you think about a dead person. They're sitting right next to you, sending you a thought. And it's because we're open-minded. We're not there saying, come on, give me something. We're open-minded. Same thing in the auric fields. When you work with someone's aura, it pops out, that energy comes to you because you're not thinking. You're open to receive it and you get it.
So true. That's so true. Christine Salisbury says, is it easier to see them if you saw auras as a child? And I think it's easier for children to see them, don't you?
Children see them all the time because remember, they just come from the spirit world. So their sense of being is seeing and feeling and knowing. So they come to this world knowing and seeing colors all the time. They know color more than anything else. So when they come in, they sense color so strong. So you don't lose it. If the child can see, go back to your child, be another child, be a child again. Have the mind of a child, like my grandnephew said, wow, you learn everything from nature teaches his wisdom. Go back to that mindset of that innocence, of that feeling. I mean, really, that's where we want to go to, that sense of amusement and enjoyment. Like, wow, that's just excitement.
So true. That's so true. God, there's so many great comments here. When you were saying about darker and muddy colors, does that always mean negative energy? I would say, when I see darker energy, darker colors, doesn't mean evil or anything like that. It just means that somebody is either they could be sick, they could be tired, they could just be a negative person, their health could be off. What say you?
So muddy or also you might get a sense, like, so the vital force might be off. Maybe they're ill, and you will get a sense that the color is muddy or it doesn't continue on. It could be their vital force has gone all the way down. Or if you sense someone that muddy dark green color, that they might have had an emotional upset. Everything in that auric fields represent what's going on with them, body, mind, spirit. Remember, that is a representation of what's going on in your life at this moment, or what you're carrying over. Right, what you're carrying on from the day before or from the year before, you're holding on to things, perhaps.
Right.
It's a perfect reflection of what's going on in your lives.
Completely. Kathleen Fleming says, "Can you see someone's color without looking directly at them?" Oh,
Totally.
Absolutely, completely.
I prefer them in the next room, and you can see it because the aura doesn't stop; it goes through walls, so you can sense that. You have three people in the next room, and you have to sense the colors of, and you can write down a piece of paper. What am I sensing about one person there? You don't know who they are, maybe, and you start writing the colors of sensing what you feel to each other person. Then at the end, you'll see it's like, wow, that worked for me. It works.
So true. So Trisha Kirby says, James, you talk about chakras and auras in your psychic intuitive certification course. Are there any other courses you teach that talk about auras?
No, but I'm thinking about doing one. I'm thinking about doing an aura course, actually, which I think, in researching for the show, I mean, I have 20 books on auras, and they're all different types of things, and I've learned from a lot of people, and I just want to put it all in one course. So I will do a course on auras. Yeah, I will definitely do that, because as you can see here, Kellee and I can't even just touch the surface.
I mean, there's so many things here. Absolutely. So Debbie Foster Horan says, are seeing dark shadows. Remember that soap opera, Dark
I used to
Shadows?
love Dark
I
Shadows.
love Dark
Alan,
Shadows.
hello. I knew I was
I
gay when I saw
lo-
Black Swan. No, it was Darwin, the wolf man with those
loved him.
chops. I love the chops. Like I would have like sideburns and like that, and I
Right.
did one day.
Did you?
I love that shot. It was so dramatic and
So fabulous.
it wasn't like the mansion over the water and the.
Yeah. I used to rush home from school to see that. Yeah. I couldn't wait. Okay, I didn't mean to digress here. Are seen auras? She asked a good question. Now I can't find the question. Renee, can you pop that back up one more? Okay, are seen dark shadows the same as seeing dark auras? Possibly. It would all depend. I mean, if you see a dark shadow from somebody, possibly.
It could mean many things. Also, I went outside sensing shadows sometimes. I call them sometimes particulars, in that they were talking with someone 2 days before and that energy's still there with them. And it could be maybe that person upset them in some way, or it could be it's an energy from somebody else. So we can say, we can necessarily say a negative thing, but I would say it's more leftover energy, if you will. Yeah. I get that when with it, I get the past. I don't get present time when I think like a shadow type of thing you're talking about. Although I will say, I have to differentiate and discern between that feeling, that sense, is it the person I'm reading right now I'm with, or is it from some their experience before?
Oh, good question. That's very good. You're right. You have to discern that. You're absolutely right.
With each person, it's like different mediums work differently. Right. So we have to discern differently. But from my experience, I call it the particulars that I see shadows, that energy is leftover energy, if you will.
That's probably what that is, actually. That's a good point. So Joanne Bocchieri says, James, is there an order in which to take your 28-day class and a class for highly sensitive people? What should I do first?
Well, it depends on your personal life experience at this moment, what you're going through. I would say, Joanne, the first thing I would take is a 28-day class is a great one. But remember that the 28-day transformation course is a course you have to take every day. It's 15 minutes a day. It's a progressive course, meaning that you're going from the day before, you're building on the experience of the day before. So if you commit yourself to 28 days every single day, then take that. It'll open your life up in ways and aspects you didn't think about. The highly sensitive, tools for the highly sensitive is just that. It's tools, it's methods that you can use, exercises that you can use to be mindful of the energy fields around you, auric fields, and how they're infected, influenced by outside people, by outside thoughts, by outside atmospheres, and also yourself. What are you putting in that auric field? So that's the highly sensitive course.
Yeah. Good. Okay. And on July 30th,
people have been wanting me to do readings, so I'm going to do a night of readings. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 dun. It's an evening of spirit, July 30th from 4 p.m. till whenever you.
I didn't know. Whenever spirit ends it, I had 5. Like, no, I can't end at 5 o'clock. Whenever spirit feels, whenever the power goes down, that's when I'll stop. But I'll do as many as I can. And it'll be a great time. I haven't done it in a while, and I really want to get back into it. So it's an evening of spirit messages, and you can get tickets at my website, vanprog.com, right there. So that's going to be a really interesting time. I'm not doing many this year. I mean, this is just starting up again, but I will be doing one in person in San Diego on the 1st of October, I believe. That'll be coming. I'm going to tell you this yet, Kelly.
This is new for me.
In Spirit Center here, the center here in Encinitas. But we're still working on October 1st. That's just because I want to get out there. I want people to have a place to go to in person, because people want to start coming out now. So that's going to happen on the website. But definitely an evening of spirit. Go to the website for tickets. We just put that up, so that'll be an evening of many spirit messages.
And next Monday we have a very fun show, because we're going to do readings. Next Monday, we're going to do mediumship readings. We're going to do psychic readings.
Aura readings.
That's going to be.
We'll just throw it out there. However we want. You guys want to do it, and we'll do it, and we'll do the best we can. And there'll be some things that Kelly picks up, things I don't pick up, things we pick up together. It's just to watch Kelly and I work, because we love each other so much and we work really well together. It's a lot of fun. Whether it's
it's so fun. Yeah. Energy starts to go, and we're off to the races. Whee! Thanks, everybody. Thanks, James. Thank you,
thanks,
Renee.
Kelly. Thanks, Renee. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now and Beyond, featuring spiritual medium and master teacher James Van Praagh and spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kelly White.
The James and Kellee Show.